Have you ever stood before a painting and felt something? Well, something more than just beauty, something that resonated, with your intellect, almost like a profound mathematical equation just sort of disguised as a masterpiece.
That's a great way to put it.
It's that rare moment, isn't it, when art isn't just seen, but actually understood on multiple, really deeply satisfying levels.
Exactly.
Today, that's precisely the experience we're diving into. We're embarking on a deep dive into one single, absolutely breathtaking work of art, Piero della Francesca's The Resurrection.
A true giant.
And this isn't merely a painting. I mean, our sources paint it as a profound window into the mind of a true Renaissance polymath, a genius who saw absolutely no division between art and science.
Right.
And it's a powerful reflection of the very spirit of an entire age. So our journey today, it's guided by, well, quite a stack of fascinating sources. We've got detailed historical accounts, rigorous technical analyses.
A really rich mix.
It is. And it's all about illuminating how this one fresco, just this single piece, perfectly encapsulates the radical shifts happening in art, science, and philosophy during the vibrant 15th century.
That interconnectedness is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our mission, let's unpack why this particular piece isn't just considered important, but truly one of the most revolutionary paintings of the early Renaissance, and how it perfectly captures that pivotal moment when art and science weren't just, linked disciplines.
No, they were much more intertwined.
They were fundamentally, profoundly the same pursuit. That's the core idea we're exploring. Okay, so let's unpack this name, Piero Francesca. When we talk about him, we're quickly moving beyond the idea of just a painter.
Oh, definitely.
The research we've gathered, all our sources, they really emphasize that he was something far more profound, something that truly set him apart in his time. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Piero della Francesca, born 1415, lived until 1492. He was, yes, of course, one of the most influential Italian painters of the 15th century. Hugely important figure.
No question.
But what makes him unique, what our sources repeatedly highlight, is that he was equally a dedicated intellectual, a profound mathematician, a rigorous theorist of perspective.
He wrote treatises on it.
Exactly. For Piero, painting wasn't just about skillful brushwork or, capturing a likeness. It was an intellectual quest, an application of scientific principles to visual reality.
Right. He wasn't just using perspective. He was thinking deeply about its mathematical basis.
Precisely. He didn't just dabble in these fields. He fundamentally integrated a scientific approach directly into his painting. And that was a groundbreaking feat that made him a true anomaly among his contemporaries.
He really was.
He wasn't simply trying to make things look real, though he achieved that brilliantly. He was driven by this maybe obsessive desire to understand and apply the underlying principles of reality itself, bringing an unprecedented mathematical rigor to every stroke of his brush.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how Piero so perfectly embodied the very essence of the Renaissance spirit. Unlike our modern world, where disciplines are often, rigidly siloed.
Right, you're an artist or a scientist.
Exactly. The 15th century was this incredible melting pot of ideas. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the revolutionary discovery and crucially, the application of mathematical perspective fundamentally allowed artists to achieve a whole new level of naturalism.
That 3D effect on a flat surface.
Precisely, to create a believable sense of three-dimensional reality. And Piero, with his deep intellectual curiosity, was absolutely at the forefront of applying the scientific rigor directly to his art.
He wasn't just following, he was leading.
In many ways, yes. And his masterpiece, The Resurrection, stands as a prime example of this convergence. It is, of course, deeply rooted in Christian iconography and narrative.
You can't miss that.
No, but it's equally a direct, profound reflection of his advanced mathematical understanding and the era's vibrant interdisciplinary intellectual movements. It holds both aspects perfectly. And this iconic fresco, completed around 1460, it isn't housed in some grand, anonymous museum,
Right, that's an important detail.
It graces a specific, incredibly meaningful wall within the San Sepolcro Cathedral. The location itself is just crucial to understanding the work's significance.
Why San Sepolcro specifically?
Well, San Sepolcro was Piero's birthplace, his hometown, and remarkably, his lifelong home. He didn't really move away to the bigger centers like Florence for long periods.
Wow. Okay.
So this makes the Resurrection more than just a commission. It's a deeply personal work. Almost an artistic autobiography, you could say, woven into the very fabric of the community he belonged to.
Imagine that a local boy, becomes this universal genius and leaves his indelible mark right there where he grew up.
Exactly. It's quite moving when you think about it that way. And to fully appreciate this, we really need to consider the historical backdrop of 15th century Italy.
The heart of the Renaissance.
Absolutely. This was the undisputed peak of the early Renaissance, a period of just unparalleled intellectual ferment and artistic innovation.
A real explosion of creativity.
It was. And the lines between what we now call science and art were not just blurring, they were often completely indistinguishable.
People didn't see a conflict there.
Not in the way we often do now. And despite the constant political rivalries, the often violent skirmishes among the various powerful city-states.
Italy wasn't unified then.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But despite that fragmentation, there was an incredible cultural and artistic vibrancy, a real thirst for knowledge and creation that somehow transcended those political borders.
Interesting.
And within this dynamic environment, Piero della Francesca distinguished himself, not just as a great artist, which he certainly was, but as one of the very few who could truly merge his profound knowledge of mathematics, his understanding of geometry and optics, with his artistic practice.
He brought it all together.
He really did. And the resurrection stands as concrete, irrefutable evidence of this unique intellectual atmosphere permeating every aspect of artistic creation at the time, at least for him. So one might ask, how did a single painting come to embody so many of these profound societal and intellectual shifts?
Yeah, how does that happen?
Well, it wasn't by accident. The burgeoning humanist thought movements of the Renaissance, which placed this renewed emphasis on human potential, rationality, individual achievement.
A shift away from purely divine focus.
A shift towards understanding humanity's place within the divine order, yes. That, combined with the fervent rediscovery of classical antiquities, wisdom, Greek and Roman art and philosophy, and a fresh, more realistic approach to observing and depicting nature.
Looking at the world differently.
Exactly. All these currents profoundly shaped both the form and the content of this masterpiece. It's far more than just a religious scene. It's a philosophical statement on humanity's place in the cosmos, a meditation on the natural world, and a visual testament to the emerging scientific understanding of the universe.
So Piero is inviting us to see the divine not just through faith alone,
but through the order and harmony of creation itself, through reason, through geometry, through observation. That's the synthesis he achieves.
So let's dig into the how of this painting then, because that's where Piero's unique genius really shines, right?
Absolutely. The technique is crucial.
Our sources make it abundantly clear that the resurrection is a fresco. And that's not just, a technical detail. It tells us a tremendous amount about Piero's incredible skill, his deep understanding of materials, and the monumental challenges he overcame. For those perhaps less familiar, fresco painting involves working directly on a thin, wet layer of fresh plaster, the technique known as buon fresco, or true fresco.
Right, buon meaning good or true.
And you're using natural pigments mixed just with water. The magic and the challenge lies in this chemical bonding process. As the plaster dries, the pigments become permanently integrated. They're literally fused with the wall itself.
It's like the color becomes part of the wall structure.
Exactly. It's this chemical marriage that makes fresco colors so incredibly vibrant and, crucially, so remarkably durable. It allows masterpieces like the Resurrection to glow with their original intensity, even after, nearly 600 years.
It's astonishing durability. But this particular technique is notoriously difficult, far more demanding than, say, oil painting on canvas.
Why is that? What makes it so tough?
Well, it demands incredible speed, unerring precision, and meticulous planning from the artist, because they must work on the plaster before it dries.
So there's a time limit.
A very strict one. Think of it like this. Once that plaster sets, and it can happen surprisingly quickly depending on the climate, the wall, the thickness corrections are nearly impossible.
I'm going to just paint over it?
Not easily. You'd typically have to physically chip away that dried section of plaster and then reapply a fresh patch. A huge amount of extra work and potentially visible.
Wow.
So this intense pressure, this race against time, it truly speaks volumes about Piero's patience, his methodical approach, and his unwavering mastery. It's not just about applying paint, it's a delicate chemical dance, a high-stakes performance where every single stroke counts.
So the unforgiving nature of fresco really underscores an artist's confidence and sheer technical skill.
Absolutely. And Piero was known to be incredibly meticulous. There's even evidence suggesting he prepared his plaster with specific additives, possibly things like marble dust or other materials, to potentially extend his working window just slightly.
Really? Like a trade secret.
Kind of,
Yeah.
allowing him to achieve finer details, particularly on critical areas like Christ's face and figure. It's a subtle mastery that gave his frescoes an unparalleled clarity and subtlety compared to many of his contemporaries. He controlled the chemistry as much as the brush. Furthermore, working with fresco imposes inherent limitations on the artist's color palette.
Oh, right. You can't use just any pigment.
No, certain pigments simply react poorly with the wet alkaline lime plaster, or they don't achieve the desired luminosity or permanence. They might fade or change color.
So the artist has to be a bit of a chemist, too.
In a way, yes, they need to understand their materials deeply. So Piero's chosen colors in the Resurrection are not just aesthetically pleasing, they are a testament to his understanding of the medium's constraints and his artistic ingenuity within those boundaries.
What kind of palette does he use?
You'll notice a sophisticated, almost mystical transition from lighter to darker tones, especially around Christ's figure. It's not just for modeling form, though it does that brilliantly. It helps to create this sacred, ethereal atmosphere, drawing your eye upwards and reinforcing the divine narrative.
A kind of inner glow.
Precisely. This careful, almost scientific graduation of color is one of his undeniable hallmarks. It's like an extension of his mathematical precision into the realm of light and shade itself. And speaking of light, Piero's nuanced use of light and shadow is also a profoundly standout feature here.
More than just realism again.
Much more. It's not merely a physical element used to create depth and volume, which it certainly does with stunning realism. It also carries a profound metaphysical meaning.
Explain that.
In the Resurrection, the radiant light, which seems almost to emanate from Christ himself, explicitly symbolizes the resurrection, that triumphant transition from the darkness of death and the tomb.
To the radiant light of new life.
Exactly. The way this light falls upon Christ's figure, highlighting his form, his presence, it almost makes him glow from within. It visually reinforces the sacredness of his figure and his role as the bringer of light into the world. It's a visual manifestation of spiritual truth.
Its light is theology.
You could say that. And what's truly remarkable, when we connect this back to the bigger picture, is how the demanding fresco technique and its inherent limitations were intrinsically intertwined with Piero's accurate and groundbreaking application of mathematical perspective.
How so? How did technique and perspective link up?
Well, he wasn't just painting on a wall. He was constructing a geometrically precise three-dimensional world onto that flat wall surface.
Building an illusion.
A very calculated illusion. Our sources indicate Piero mathematically calculated every aspect of the architectural order, the tomb itself, the precise angles, the spatial relationships between all the figures. He didn't just eyeball it,
He wasn't guessing.
No, absolutely not. He used a precise geometric principles, often derived directly from his deep study of Euclidean geometry, to determine exactly where everything should be placed to create that convincing sense of three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional surface.
So the math came first.
The mathematical structure was integral to the conception of the image. This allowed him to present you, the viewer, with an experience that is not only visually dramatic, but also profoundly balanced and harmonious. It feels ordered, rational.
Right.
This is where that scientific rigor truly elevates the artistic expression. It makes the space not just believable, but perfectly ordered in a way that deeply resonated with the classical ideals that were being rediscovered during the Renaissance.
Can you give an example of that in the painting?
Sure. Look at the lines of the tomb itself, or even the diagonal lines created by the sleeping soldiers' lances. If you trace them, you'll find they subtly converge or point towards Christ's mid-torso near the wound.
Okay, I see.
It's a deliberate mathematical choice. It forces your eye towards the miracle, towards the central figure. It makes you an active participant in comprehending the scene's structure rather than just a passive observer.
So perspective directs the viewing experience.
Absolutely. This strict adherence to these rules of perspective reinforced the spatial reality and three-dimensionality of the work, making it feel truly present and immersive, almost like you could step into it.
When you first lay eyes on the resurrection, your gaze isn't random, is it? Your eye is drawn in a very specific, almost unavoidable way.
That's right. It's highly directed.
And that, as our sources repeatedly highlight, is no accident at all. It's a testament to Piero's unparalleled mathematical precision in the composition. And his revolutionary, almost, you could say, manipulative use of linear perspective.
Manipulative in a good way, guiding, perhaps.
Guiding, yes. This is where it gets really fascinating. It's like he's directing your very gaze through an invisible network of geometric lines, creating a visual pathway right to the painting's heart. The core composition itself is just an absolute masterclass in mathematical precision and, well, divine order. Piero meticulously arranged all the figures and elements, creating an incredibly visually balanced and perfectly symmetric structure. There's a quiet, monumental grandeur to its stillness.
It has real weight, real presence.
It does. And at the very, very center, Christ rises powerfully from the tomb. His upright posture conveys both immense physical and spiritual strength, yet also this profound serenity. He is the undeniable focal point.
Everything revolves around him.
Exactly. The anchor around which all other figures are positioned in this meticulously calculated rhythm and balance. And his upward gaze, fixed on something beyond our sight, and his idealized yet physically substantial anatomy. They're not merely aesthetically pleasing choices.
No, there's meaning there.
They directly reflect the humanistic philosophy that blossomed during the Renaissance, emphasizing human potential and dignity, even within a divine context. He is both man and God, physically present, spiritually transcendent.
That duality is perfectly captured. And the use of perspective, as you mentioned, was, without exaggeration, a true game changer in the 15th century. It fundamentally transformed painting as it was known.
A watershed moment.
Truly. And Piero's deep study and his innovative application of its rules are just evident throughout the Resurrection. Here, perspective isn't just about depicting realistic space, it's a deliberate, almost strategic tool.
A tool for what?
To guide your perception, to direct your attention precisely where the artist wants it to be, and ultimately to powerfully reinforce the central narrative. You are, in essence, led through the scene by the very lines and vanishing points that structure it, like a visual magnetic force pulling you in. Take the soldiers' positions, for example, clustered around the tomb in these varying states.
Yeah, they're not all the same.
Not at all. They are rendered in distinct positions and angles, adding immense dynamism and a sense of unfolding drama to the scene, even within the overall stillness.
So you have contrast there.
Exactly. You have one soldier, maybe, some people think, a self-portrait of Piero himself.
Oh, interesting.
Slumped over, completely unaware, lost in a deep sleep. While others are startled, caught in a moment of awakening or profound fright, their faces etched with astonishment.
Different reactions.
Very different. This clever arrangement provides multiple viewpoints within the composition, drawing your eye around the central, triumphant figure of Christ. It isn't just a technical choice of varied poses, it becomes a powerful narrative device.
How so?
It compels you, the viewer, to consider the different human responses to such a miraculous, world-altering event. Their expressions, astonishment, deep sleep, stunned immobility, powerfully underscore the unexpected and miraculous nature of the resurrection.
It makes it more human, more relatable somehow.
Precisely. Their varied facial expressions and body language truly reveal Piero's keen observation of human nature, enriching the dramatic power of the work significantly. It truly makes you wonder, doesn't it? How does this technical choice showing these varied human reactions become such a powerful narrative device?
Well, it draws you in, makes you think about how you might react.
Exactly. By showing these diverse responses, Piero doesn't just illustrate a story. He invites you to contemplate your own potential reactions to such a profound event, to place yourself within the scene. It's a masterclass in engaging the viewer beyond mere observation. And moreover, the significance of geometric forms is crucial here, particularly the triangle, which was widely seen as a symbol of sacredness, stability, and perfection in Renaissance art.
The Trinity, maybe.
Often linked to the Trinity, yes, and divine harmony. And you can clearly see how Christ's body itself, with its strong, upright, almost triangular posture,
Right, I could see that.
and the overall arrangement of the figures and even the landscape elements integrate these geometric references. This is not accidental. These shapes are strategically placed to strengthen the sacred narrative, imbuing the entire scene with a profound sense of divine order and harmony. It's an almost spiritual geometry at play, suggesting a universal underlying mathematical truth to the divine event.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the human figures themselves. Because this is where a truly radical transformation was taking place in art during this period.
A huge shift, yes.
Before the Renaissance, human figures in art were often quite stylized, almost symbolic representations, wouldn't you say?
Very much so. Flat, elongated, not very anatomically concerned.
Right. They conveyed an idea or a theological concept more than a living, breathing person. But our sources emphatically emphasize Piero della Francesca's incredible anatomical precision in the Resurrection. And this marks a genuinely significant shift.
It does. It was part of that broader revolutionary Renaissance movement towards a much more realistic, scientifically informed depiction of nature and, critically, the human
Like a
body.
new way of seeing.
A new way of seeing and a new confidence in representing what was seen. It was a profound departure from the highly conventionalized, often quite ethereal forms of medieval art. And Piero's anatomical knowledge was, simply put, profound for his time.
Where did he get it from? Dissections weren't common then, were they?
They were becoming more common, actually, particularly in artistic and medical circles. His knowledge likely came from a combination of things: observing classical sculpture, which often showed great anatomical understanding.
Right. The Greek and Roman statues.
Yes, and likely also from some access to anatomical studies, perhaps even disceptions happening in universities or private studies. And of course, intense observation of living models.
So a mix of sources.
A mix.
Yeah.
And he meticulously applied this knowledge, rendering every muscle, every bone, every sinew with astonishing accuracy. This commitment to realism is, as you said, one of the most striking aspects of the work. It's not just about making things look good, it's about making them look real, believable, tangible,
Conveying physical presence.
and an inner, almost spiritual truth through that physical accuracy. Just consider Christ's body in the painting. It is undeniably idealized. It has a perfection reflecting his divine nature and his triumph over death.
He looks heroic.
He does, but simultaneously it's remarkably physically realistic. You can discern precise musculature. Look at the definition in his torso and arms, carefully proportioned limbs, and that powerful, grounded posture as if he is literally pushing himself up from the earth from the tomb.
It's a very physical action.
It is. This duality, this exquisite balance between the idealized perfection and the physically truthful representation, expresses both his humanity and his divinity in a singular, compelling form.
Best of both worlds, visually speaking.
In a sense, the resurrection is depicted not just as a purely spiritual event, but crucially as a physical miracle, a tangible return from death. So the solidity, the undeniable presence of his body, is paramount to conveying the reality of this sacred act.
He isn't floating or ghost-like.
Not at all. He is a tangible, powerful figure present right there in our world. And the soldiers' figures further exemplify this profound realism. They aren't just generic soldiers, they are individuals.
Right, you mentioned their different poses.
And their different physiques. They are rendered with different muscle structures, different body types, varied postures, each enhancing the overall authenticity and dynamic tension of the scene.
So you had a variety.
You do. You have some soldiers depicted deep in sleep, their bodies relaxed, heavy with slumber, while others appear startled, their muscles tensed in surprise or even fear, illustrating that multifaceted range of human reactions to the miracle unfolding before them.
So the anatomy supports the narrative again.
Directly. It makes the scene feel alive and immediate. Piero's observational power is just so evident in these exquisite details, the nuanced expressions on their hands and faces, the physical truth of their slumped or strained postures.
He must have spent hours just watching people.
Undoubtedly. All of these details are drawn from direct observation of nature, which was a core tenet of Renaissance art, and again, a radical departure from earlier, more symbolic representations.
So what does this level of anatomical detail really tell us about the Renaissance's emphasis on humanism?
Well, it signals a profound shift in focus. It's centering on understanding humanity in all its complexity, physical, emotional, intellectual, and celebrating its potential, its form.
Valuing the human form itself.
Yes. The work transcends a mere religious narrative to become a profound study of human nature and existence. It explores how individuals react to the extraordinary, to the divine breaking into the mundane world. It's about us as much as it is about Christ.
So how does the resurrection fit into the the broader artistic currents of its time? Our sources strongly position it not just as an example, but as a quintessential defining example of 15th century Italian Renaissance art. And all that truly meant.
It's a benchmark work.
It really is. And just to recap, the Renaissance represented this decisive, often revolutionary break from the more dogmatic, often stylized, and otherworldly art of the Middle Ages.
A complete rethinking.
It was. It marked a profound shift towards a nature-centered, a science-centered, and perhaps most importantly, a human-centered approach to artistic creation.
Putting humanity back in the picture, literally.
Exactly. This era saw truly revolutionary developments in artistic techniques we've talked about, perspective, a much deeper and scientifically informed understanding of anatomy, and these innovative, nuanced uses of light and color that captured natural phenomena like never before.
Piero della Francesca wasn't merely a participant in these groundbreaking developments. He was both a diligent follower of the new trends and, critically, a daring pioneer who pushed the boundaries further than most.
He wasn't just copying, he was innovating.
Absolutely. His unique ability to seamlessly bring mathematics and geometry into the very fabric of his art perfectly reflects the scientific, rational spirit of the Renaissance. He wasn't just applying rules discovered by others, he was, in many ways, formulating them through his own theoretical work, experimenting.
Living that polymath ideal.
Precisely. Embodying the era's boundless intellectual curiosity and its relentless drive to understand the world through rational inquiry and systematic observation. His painting essentially proclaims, we can understand God's order through reason and mathematics, and here it is, laid out in perfect perspective. Now, the theme of the resurrection itself holds a central, undeniable place in Christian faith.
Cornerstone, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Symbolizing salvation, rebirth, the triumph of life over death, artists of the time frequently used this theme to emphasize the paramount importance of faith, both for the individual and for society, conveying powerful messages through rich symbolism and narrative.
Standard subject matter, in a way.
A standard but incredibly potent one. But the resurrection by Piero goes far beyond a simple religious illustration. It truly functions as a profound philosophical statement, almost a manifesto.
How so? A philosophical manifesto.
Well, the painting, in its meticulous order, its rational structure, its realistic depiction combined with idealization, actively questions humanity's place in the universe. It merges the tangible, physical reality of nature with the abstract perfection of mathematics and divine order.
Bringing it all together again.
Exactly. What's truly fascinating here is that it's essentially a Renaissance artistic and philosophical manifesto captured in pigment on plaster, a visual declaration of the era's core beliefs.
What belief specifically?
It powerfully proclaims the triumph of human intellect and reason to comprehend and represent both the divine and the natural world in a unified, harmonious vision. That humans, through study and observation, could grasp the underlying principles of creation. And another crucial aspect that reveals this philosophical underpinning is Piero's deliberate choice of calm, almost static poses for his figures.
Yeah, it's not exactly action-packed, is it?
No, not in the way later art might be. Unlike some later Baroque art, for instance, which would embrace dramatic movement, swirling emotion, intense dynamism.
Think Bernini sculptures or something.
Right. Piero consciously prioritized reason, balance, and contemplation. His figures, even Christ himself in his moment of rising, are remarkably contemplative, monumental in their stillness, almost frozen in a moment of profound, eternal significance.
Why that stillness?
This characteristic is core to Renaissance humanism, which valued order, clarity, intellectual serenity, and the power of the rational mind over raw, transient, emotional display.
Control over chaos.
In a sense. This choice raises an interesting question for us to ponder. Why did this era so profoundly value contemplation and intellectual order over overt emotional expression?
What's the thinking there?
It's likely because the humanists believed in the supreme power of human reason to bring harmony and understanding to the world. And this ideal was beautifully expressed through the measured, balanced compositions that Piero, among others, championed. It suggests a deep belief that truth, particularly divine truth, is found in stability, rational understanding, and serene acceptance, not in fleeting emotional outbursts. It's an intellectual stillness reflecting an ordered cosmos.
Okay, finally, let's peel back one more layer and talk about the story itself, the narrative, and its profound layers of meaning.
The core message.
Exactly. The theme of Christ's resurrection is absolutely fundamental to Christian belief. Symbolizing victory over death and sin, the promise of salvation, the hope of eternal life, it truly is the cornerstone of the faith.
Everything hinges on it.
Right. But Pierre's depiction of it, as we've seen, is not just a straightforward illustration. It's a deeply nuanced, almost revolutionary interpretation for its time.
He brings his unique perspective to it.
He does. His portrayal of this pivotal moment is remarkable in its simplicity, yet it resonates with astonishing, profound depth. He captures the very instant Christ rises from the tomb, but this moment is deliberately rendered as timeless.
How do you mean timeless?
It doesn't feel set in a specific fleeting second of historical time. It feels universal, continuously relevant, reinforcing its enduring message of triumph and renewal. It's like it's always happening.
Ah, I see. A perpetual present.
Exactly. The resurrection here is depicted not merely as a physical awakening, though it undeniably is that, with that strong body, but it's also a powerful symbol of spiritual enlightenment, a grand, universal symbol of humanity's salvation, applicable across all ages and all human experiences. It feels like a moment outside of time, eternally unfolding.
And the figures of the soldiers are incredibly symbolic here, forming a powerful counterpoint to Christ's serene triumph.
We touched on their different reactions.
Yes, and those reactions represent the diverse human responses to this spiritual awakening, this profound truth breaking into the world. Some are still deep in sleep, utterly oblivious to the monumental, world-altering event unfolding literally inches from them.
They symbolize humanity's unconscious state, spiritually unaware.
Perhaps, or simply those not yet ready or willing to see. While others are suddenly jolted awake, filled with a mix of horror, amazement, or even fear, their worlds suddenly and irrevocably upended by the miracle.
The whole spectrum of response.
Exactly. This multi-layered narrative, expressed through their varied states of awareness and emotion, is a powerful testament to the deep meanings Piero infused into the work. It suggests that not everyone is ready to witness or accept such profound transformation. It brilliantly reflects humanity's varied responses to profound truth or revelation, from deep slumber to startled awakening. And let's delve just a bit more into the profound symbolism of Christ's gaze and posture within the painting.
Okay.
His gaze, directed piercingly upwards towards the sky, points clearly to his divine and superhuman nature. It connects him directly with the heavens, the divine realm from which he came and to which he ascends.
Looking beyond the earthly.
Precisely. It's a gaze that transcends the earthly realm. But at the same time, his solid, grounded stance, rooted firmly on the edge of the tomb, with one foot planted powerfully on the sarcophagus and the other raised as if stepping out.
Yeah, it's very assertive.
It is. It emphasizes the physical reality of the resurrection.
Yeah.
It's this powerful visual paradox, simultaneously ethereal in his gaze and profoundly earthly in his stance, divine and human.
Capturing that dual nature.
Exactly. That duality is central to the Christian theological understanding of Christ's two natures, and Piero captures it beautifully in a single, powerful image. Furthermore, the meticulous play of light and shadow within the painting, as we discussed earlier, explicitly symbolizes the fundamental concepts of darkness and light.
Darkness representing death and sin.
Yes, the state from which humanity is being redeemed, the state of the tomb, the state of the sleeping soldiers. Conversely, the vibrant, almost incandescent light emanating from Christ and illuminating the scene represents resurrection, salvation, the promise of new life and enlightenment.
It's not just descriptive light.
No, it's symbolic light. It's not just delineating form. It's a powerful visual metaphor that directly conveys spiritual truth and the transformative power of divine intervention.
So tying it all together.
When we connect this to the bigger picture, Piero della Francesca presents this universal theme not merely as a historical religious event from the past. He presents it as a timeless call, a call for both personal and societal salvation and renewal.
Relevant now as it was then.
Absolutely. The entire painting visually expresses what is arguably one of the most important moments of transformation in human history, not just a religious narrative, but a profound statement about overcoming adversity, finding new beginnings, and the enduring human desire for rebirth and hope. It's a visual hymn to triumph over despair, grounded in both faith and reason.
And there you have it. We've seen how Piero della Francesca's The Resurrection stands as such a powerful, undeniable example of the Renaissance era's innovative spirit, seamlessly blending artistic mastery with real scientific precision and a profound spiritual narrative.
The true synthesis.
It really is. It's truly incredible how a single artwork can be a masterclass in composition, a testament to unparalleled technical skill in fresco, and a deep dive into philosophical thought all at once. And it still resonates across centuries.
Its power hasn't diminished.
Not at all. It reminds us, I think, that the greatest works of art are often those that refuse to be confined to a single category or discipline.
This deep dive into Piero della Francesca might just inspire you, our listeners, to look at other masterpieces with a new, perhaps more discerning eye.
Looking for those hidden layers.
Exactly, because it truly makes you consider how much of what we perceive as purely art today actually contains deeply ingrained scientific principles or profound philosophical inquiries, just waiting there for us to uncover them.
It's a fascinating question.
Does true mastery maybe always involve this holistic understanding, this blending of seemingly disparate disciplines, creating a sum far greater than its parts?
Food for thought.
Definitely. Perhaps the greatest art always holds these hidden layers of science and meaning beneath the surface, challenging us to look deeper, think harder, and maybe see the interconnectedness of all knowledge reflected there.